Alright. What's up, everybody, and welcome back. A very controversial video came across my feed the other day. Life's huge gambling spree after I Am Katowice 2014. It's an excerpt from Oz's stream where he talked about some crazy stories, in my opinion, and I wanted to talk about these. Important context for anyone who doesn't know, Life was the greatest player potentially of all time, definitely from late 2012 to early 2016. He won almost $500,000 and was absolutely unstoppable. One of the most confident young men, and he was just so beastly. Until early 2016, when he was both convicted, he was accused and then convicted of match fixing. He threw matches for money that his buddies were gambling on. There was a whole ring of players who were doing this with some coaches, with a coach and a few other people, and essentially he got caught for that, and it was a massive stun to the scene. The Korean StarCraft scene, many say, was killed by this happening, and we were all stunned. Why did a young player who's won $500,000 need to throw a few matches for, apparently it was $60,000 that they caught him for? Which is, you've won almost $500,000. What are you doing? After that, rumors came out that he actually had gambling debts. We never really heard any of the stories behind that, though. It was just rumors, because a lot of the Korean players were tight-lipped about it, until now, when we have a little bit of insight from Oz. So let's take a listen and see what Oz has to say. So after SOS won $100,000 at IEM 2014, there was another issue happening at this point, and that issue was, there was a pro gamer that was pretty good at the game. He was really young. As far as I know, later down the line, he became directly involved with match fixing and got his pro gaming license revoked and all. I can't seem to recall his name. He was really young. Anyways, there was a guy like that. He was a Zerg, but this guy was hugely talented back in the day. Anyways, he came to IEM Katowice 2014, but he got knocked out on the very first day. A lot of the time, if you get eliminated in the first day, you have a lot of time left over, so he went to the casino afterwards. What was jaw-dropping here was back then this guy was really young, less than 20 I recall. He probably wasn't even 20. He's actually 17, guys. At this point, he just turned 17. Anyways, he was a really young gamer, but he was really good at gaming even when he was young, and won tons of tournaments back then, and earned tons of money. But he just straight up got knocked out in the round of 8. And he went to the casino after that, all of a sudden. He went to the casino and said, I'm just going to play with $1,000. He plays with $1,000, loses it. When he lost $1,000, he went, man, this is tilting. He comes back with another $1,000. He loses it. So this guy, over the course of 3 days, keeps going back and forth, loses around $20,000, maybe $30,000. Overall, probably about $20,000 in the casino alone at that one tournament, at that age. But you know what he said right after that? Hear this. It was hell amazing. After that, he goes, damn it, this is so tilting. I'll just win the next tournament then. And he won the next tournament. It was so absurd. After losing all that money, he just went, it's so tilting, I'm going to win the next tournament, and he won the next one. What I thought while watching him back then was, man, there are really a ton of crazy people in this world. But he was good. He was really good at the game. After that, after years passed, a few years passed at that time where I wasn't really playing StarCraft, he came out on the news that he's being charged with match fixing. Something along those lines. Alright, so the first thing, the elephant in the room, he's just turned 17 years old. How is he in a casino in Poland when the legal gambling age in Poland is 18? Last time I went to a casino was earlier this year in Poland, and it took a while. I had to give them my passport, get in. I don't know, maybe back then in 2014, their security was more lax. Katowice was a pretty small city back then. It's developed a lot in the last 10 years, but who knows? Either that or he used another player's passport. They kind of snuck him in. I'm not sure. Either way, that's already a bit of a thing. If you bring in a young underage kid into the casino, you should probably be keeping an eye on them. But then you hear the story about him going back and just, $1,000 going back. I mean, if someone doubles up once, I'm like, doesn't look good. Big warning sign. They do it more than that, and they lose 20 times their amount they initially went to. Guys, there's problem gambling, and then there's like extreme levels of problem gambling, extreme levels of addiction. Look, certain people can't handle it. Certain people's brain cannot handle gambling. I grew up around gambling. Well, not around it, but around people who were affected by it. I have uncles, aunts, family members who have gambling addiction issues, and it's friggin' terrible, because I grew up, and my cousins who were their kids always were moving around because he had to, try and dodge all the gambling debts. We had phone calls to my family and like my dad of people trying to collect debts because he'd given our address and home as if he lived there, and just all sorts of weird stuff where, at a certain point there was kind of like a family disowning of, we can't really be involved in this. But essentially the lessons I learned from that is like, hey man, gambling is this thing, it's pretty bad, right? It was kind of like drugs for me growing up. But as I've grown up and I've learned more and more about it, it's been also like, hey, look, certain people just can't handle it. Some people kind of can have some fun with gambling, but there are certain people where it is just activate something in their brain and it is like lighting their brain on fire and it makes them feel so good. Just the anticipation is insane. Like the levels of excitement you get and the rush is like better than heroin for certain people. And you look at what Life just did, that for me is such an obvious sign that this is the case for him, and he is a problem gambler who has serious addiction issues with it, and you need to deal with it. People say it's not even an addiction, it's actually like a brain malfunction. I don't know how true that is, but he's clearly on that extreme end of it. What really pisses me off watching this video, and I don't mean to throw shade at Oz, is just how kind of like, oh, look what this crazy story is. This is wild. Maybe he wasn't very close, right? Because he was never on the same team as Life. Maybe some other players were. But just thought like, oh, this guy was kind of crazy. And I get he said he was pretty young, under 20. He just turned 17. And if you're gambling like that, it's probably not his first time. I'm imagining from when he's 15 or 16, when he's first traveling overseas, they're gambling. And I don't know. Maybe that was his first time in a casino and it just lit something on fire. For me, I'm worried that there were older brother figures who were more experienced in their 20s and potentially coaches and managers in their 30s around who should have known better than, number one, introducing him and other players to this, and number two, not warning them about the dangers and pitfalls of it. There is a bit of a hierarchical system in a lot of the teams where, you know, your hyuns, your older brothers should be looking out for you, and they kind of boss you around a bit and stuff. Like when I was in Team House back in the day for like a month and a half in Korea, and I was actually in the Team House where most of the match fixers were, including one of the ringleaders, the coaches of that team, the Prime House. I was in that house, and there's a real hierarchy to it. So I don't know, normally the older figures, the coaches, they kind of have authority. You kind of have to listen to them. There is a bit of a hierarchy due to age in Korean culture, right? I'm not sure, though, how being a champion interrupts that, because I definitely noticed if a player was successful, they do move up that hierarchy, and it kind of messes with the traditional way of just, you've got to listen to those who are older than you. Part of me worries about that and wonders, maybe people are like, oh, he's a champion, we can't really tell him what to do or warn him or speak to him like we're bigger brothers. He's actually the big boy because he's actually the best player. I really do hope that some of the guys at StarTale, his team for many years back then, sat him down and said, slow the heck down, this is dangerous. Showed him the dangers of it. I mean, this is something which I don't know how this went, because you got to realize in Korean society as well, gambling is heavily restricted, but there are still ways to gamble. But it's known as a big social issue there for sure. But I don't know if, because it's so heavily restricted, maybe there isn't as much of a focus on education and that sort of stuff, or maybe he just wasn't around it because he's spending all his time playing video games and nothing else. I know that here in Australia, we have tons of education over the last 20, 30 years about it. So most people, they see someone go back and be like, almost everyone goes to a casino, like, okay, I'm gonna bet this much. You see your friend go back for, hit up the cash machine, like you already know there's a problem. And you're stepping in pretty quickly to try and slow them down or stop them. You can't do it for everyone, don't get me wrong. Maybe Life was a champion and wasn't gonna listen anyway. Maybe he was so bloody confident. But for me, there's a part of me that feels a bit sick in my stomach, this idea of what if this was like an unsupervised 16-year-old going overseas, winning tournaments, everyone wants to take photos with him, shake his hands, he's on top of the world. Of course he thinks he can win at the casino as well. He gambled a lot in StarCraft. His style was very aggressive, very gambly, and like you could tell he loved taking chances in StarCraft. So maybe he was just so confident, like, hey dude, this is dangerous, slow down, and he's like, screw you, I'm gonna win. I do it in StarCraft, why can't I do it now? Sometimes, I don't know, maybe you need to just sit down and have an awkward conversation with him and really like impart your authority as an older brother figure. Because dude, if I was around him at the same time, spoke the same language as him and saw this happening, I 100% would have stepped in. Maybe that's not fair, maybe not 100%. I'd like to think I would have stepped in. I think it's fair. I think I'm sounding a bit judgmental with how I'm saying this. I think what I really mean is we should be stepping in and trying to protect people from this sort of stuff and warn them about the dangers. And I'm not saying it's the responsibility of people around them. Life made his choices. But I am saying some people are more vulnerable than others, and young people, you know, are going to be a bit more exposed than others, especially when they just spend all day practicing StarCraft. So I do hope we can kind of warn younger players of stuff like this, and definitely not be introducing them to this sort of culture of gambling and just, you know, throwing their money into the casino and YOLO and, oh, we lost, don't worry, let's double up until we make it back, because that is very dangerous and that gets out of hand really fast. All right, let's listen to the second half of the video, guys. All right, so there's a big expo in Germany at a fairly big convention center or something. But in that tournament, there were 8 Korean pro gamers invited to it. So I went. Since there were 8 Koreans there, it wasn't easy at all to win. But even if you don't, if I recall correctly, as long as you get to the round of 8, they gave you $5,000. So starting from the round of 8, they gave about $5,000. That was really free, since it was pretty much just giving you $5,000 just for getting invited for the tournament. So those 8 players that participated, after playing a relaxing set of games, kind of treating it like an even match or an event match, we agreed this between each other. Whoever wins the tournament, and I recall the prize tournament for the prize winner would have got $15,000, round of 8, $5,000, round of 4, $7,000. So winner probably about $15,000. Anyway, it wasn't a crazy amount of money. Since everyone thought it would be pretty rough to win the entire thing, and prize money was pretty close between finishes, we all agreed that whoever wins the tournament should treat the others with $3,000. Whether it's with food or something else. So the winner treats all. But that guy won. That little kid I talked about earlier. Life. Little kid who lost $30,000 gambling and all. He won that tournament. And you know what was really awesome about that little shit? We all agreed with $3,000. He suddenly goes, guys, I'm really tired, so I'm just going to take a rest at the hotel. I'll hand $5,000 to you guys. So you guys divide it up. Have some fun tonight. And he just gave us a cool $5,000. So like, he goes, instead of $3,000, since I won, I'll give you $5,000 instead. I head off to the hotel to rest. You guys split it. Enjoy that $5,000. He sent it directly to our bank account. How cool was that? The young guys who have the guts are also all good at the game. Yeah, so I took that $5,000 and divided it up with the other guys. We all had a nice time playing with that. Okay, so this really made me think just about how some people, and a lot of people in society, myself included when I was younger, just don't understand money. And they waste it a lot, especially when we're young, right? We all do that a lot. I think this is kind of standard for successful young people, especially, oh my God, I'm earning money. I don't have kids, or I don't have to worry about buying a house or anything yet. That's for way down the track when I'm old. Ah, man, I have no expenses. I live in a team house. This is great. And I think this is like a widespread society issue, is like, for here in Australia at least, not a lot of people get educated on money. You know, you kind of need to come from the right family and friends who kind of teach you some basic fundamentals. And if you're not in that, you just have no idea what to do with your money, and it comes in one hand and goes straight out the other. I think this is especially bad in sports, though, and esports. Young players don't really realize, if you're at the top, you're going to be there for like 1 to 2 years on average, and often only 6 months where you're actually winning tournaments. Like, how many players are one-hit wonders? They win a tournament, and then they might get a bunch of top 8s for a couple of years. But I mean, the prize money is massively different between getting top 8s and winning tournaments. You can only really bet on you hitting your peak and holding it for a year or 2 at most. And even that is a big gamble. Some people get a tournament win and they never get close ever again. So if you blow those earnings, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life, right? If you win $500,000, you just throw it away. I mean, then especially if it leads you to match fixing and now having a criminal record and being socially ostracized in your country, I mean, this is obviously a massive, massive regret for life. But even for players who maybe just throw away bits of their money here and there, and don't invest it and have it all gone and their career's over and they're having to start afresh in a new area, that's a very scary prospect, and it's really sad to see. I think a really good example of the opposite is someone like Snoot, who I remember he was, top foreigner for a few years, won a lot of money, and he must have had the right influences around him, because he saved it all, bought an apartment up there in Norway, invested it in that, and basically he said, look, I've now got an investment for my future, and I'm pretty sure he's off, done a degree, and he's studying, and I'm pretty sure he's gone and got a career now, and has that kind of nest egg started from his pro gaming career. He's got something to show for it, and I'm sure he's very happy with the fact that he chose to do that. A lot of players, on the other hand, what have I seen over the years, is this same sort of behavior where they're like, hey guys, I won a tournament. I'm just going to shout you all money. Woo! And it's like, dude, you still have to pay tax on those earnings. You're not going to win another tournament every week. Obviously, life is like, it's fine. I'm just going to win a tournament next week. That was kind of his attitude. But this whole like, hey, let's just waste the money, shout everyone stuff because I won a tournament. I just think it's fun, obviously, to shout your friends something. But $3,000 is ridiculous for a group of people for dinner. Like, guys, you're not Wall Street executives. You're not goddamn, you're not bankers. You're not making millions of dollars. And the prize money back then, realize life was at the top of the game for several years. He only won just under $500,000. Sure, if he was at the top in the later years of StarCraft 2, he would have probably earned a bit more money being at the very top, because the prize money very slowly ramped up over the years in StarCraft. But it's not that much money, man, for being a top performer at something. And It obviously disappeared very quickly. Now, obviously, this isn't just a pro gaming problem. We've heard countless stories of footballers, especially professional sports people, but especially like footballers blowing tens of millions of dollars, sometimes hundreds of millions, due to having no financial literacy, no one around them telling them what to do or educating them on what to do with their money. It's just so sad, isn't it? And it's something we've got more awareness of over the last 20, 30 years. Is like, hey, we're seeing professional athletes who are at the top of their craft who have depressing lives later on. And it's not always because of CTE. Sometimes it's just, you know, bad influences around them, life choices, them getting taken advantage of. And it's sad. And I hate to see that in StarCraft and in gaming as well, where, I don't know, there's part of me that's maybe silly and naive, would like to think there'd be more intelligent influencers and people kind of helping them manage their future and their expectations and their money and making sure they're actually taking care of things, so they're not ending up being a desperate person who's in gambling debt and they have to go throw matches and literally, many would say, ruin the Korean StarCraft 2 scene. I just really hope we can start to guide players like this in the future and actually give them more information about how little money they're actually earning, how much disappears for tax, how much it costs to buy homes and invest in things. Because you got to remember, these players, look, at the end of the day, competing and getting to the top is super friggin' exciting. It's very fun, but there are pitfalls to success that need to be addressed, and we need to teach the players about this. Normally, nobody prepares you for this. We need to actually, you know, as the friends and the people around these players, try and inform them of that. If you're a manager or a team manager, you can't just be like, hey, win the tournament, I give you your salary, that's it. You know, if you guys actually care about these players, try to take care of them and actually give them that info they need to build upon that. And don't be out there just giving them drugs or getting them in the casino and going, yeah, let's just get you effed up or living the high life, burn all your money down the drain and end up in a desperate situation. I just want us to do better in general and be aware of the fact that pro gamers are kids who've spent tens of thousands of hours getting good at one thing. This is the same problem athletes have. They're very good at hitting the ball in the line or throwing the ball in the net or you know, running really fast. Same thing for gamers. They're very good at winning at StarCraft or whatever game they play. They're not going to have as much life experience because of that. They are going to have even less than the average person. The average person is already lacking in knowledge in many of these areas. So I think we need to remember is, hey, you know, they're deep experts in a niche field. They're going to need support to not make these mistakes. We can't just assume they know what they're doing. When you're thrust onto the world stage as a champion, that much attention, that much, I mean, come on, what's that going to do to your confidence levels? You're going to think you're untouchable, as if you don't already as a 16-year-old boy. You're winning tournaments around the world and getting hundreds of thousands of dollars in your bank account with no oversight, apparently, over his finances, whilst being under 18 years old. Like, I don't know what was going on here. For me, this feels crazy. There's a part of me that can't help but wonder if there was a sterner older brother type figure who sat life down, straightened him out early in his success and said, stop gambling, dude, you've got a problem. Whether that meant physically dragging him out of the casino or sitting him down and having an awkward discussion and telling him, I wonder, would he still have thrown the matches? Would he have just said, dude, I can do what I want, get out of my face, I'm not listening to you? I mean, obviously it's the choice he made. I'm not saying, oh, there's no responsibility for life. He made terrible choices and he has that responsibility. What I'm saying is, would he have made those choices if these discussions were had, if people taught him differently or he had different influences around him? At the end of the day, I guess we're never going to know, but I think we can at least take this as a learning experience and say, hey, if we have other players like this in the future coming up from a young age, let's not get carried away and buy into the hype of, oh my God, they're so good, they're a godlike figure. They're young boys or girls who don't know what the hell they are doing, as none of us do when we're young. And I'm 35 now, I still don't know what I'm doing in a lot of scenarios. I think we just got to remember to not glorify them to the point where we forget that they're people with lots of shortcomings like we all have. Hopefully we can try and support the next generation of pro gamers a bit better. Anyway, I hope this didn't get too dark. I just thought this was good food for thought, because the whole debacle of a world champion throwing matches for me confounded me, and then the gambling rumors came out and that always kind of went, oh really? And I'd always had this thought that, like, how the hell does a 16-year-old get addicted to gambling? Something has gone wrong there. I'm pretty confident that there definitely could have been things done to mitigate it. That being said, it is what it is, and thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I know it's a bit of a controversial topic, but hope you feel I covered it fairly. And thanks to Oz for talking about that openly on his stream. It's so rare to get any insight at all. I guess enough time's passed for him. He's just kind of like, oh, there's some crazy stuff that happened back then. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. I'm blathering. Thanks for hanging out. See you later, guys. Bye.